In 1923, a German woman used a wheelbarrow full of cash to buy a single loaf of bread. In 2008, Zimbabwe printed a $100 trillion bill that couldn't buy you a bus ticket. Right now, the US dollar has lost 97% of its purchasing power since 1913. And here's the thing that should terrify you. This isn't a coincidence, it's a pattern that has repeated itself over 775 times throughout recorded history. Every single time. Today, I'm going to show you why every financial system in human history has ended the exact same way, and why the system you're using right now is already showing the same symptoms. Before we dive into the chaos, you need to understand something fundamental. Every financial system, whether it's ancient Rome or modern America, goes through 4 predictable stages. And once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. Stage 1, sound money. This is when currency is backed by something real. Gold, silver, actual commodities. The government can't just print more of it whenever they feel like it. Rome had this, Britain had this, America had this. Stage 2, debasement. This is where things get interesting. The government needs more money than it has. Maybe there's a war, maybe there's a social program, maybe they just made promises they can't keep. So they start cheating. They reduce the precious metal content in coins. They print more paper money. They tell you everything's fine. Stage 3, crisis of confidence. People aren't stupid, they notice. They start losing faith in the currency. Prices skyrocket. The government insists it's temporary. They blame merchants, foreign powers, speculators, anyone but themselves. In stage 4, collapse or reset. The system either collapses entirely, or the government is forced to abandon the old currency and start fresh with a new and improved version, which, of course, just restarts the cycle. Now here's what's crazy. This pattern has played out so consistently that you could set your watch by it. Let me show you. Let's start with the OG of currency collapse, ancient Rome. In 64 AD, the Roman Denarius was 95% pure silver. It was respected across the known world. It was sound money, but Rome had a problem. Actually, Rome had several problems. Military expansion was expensive. Entertaining the masses with bread and circuses, also expensive. Massive government bureaucracy, you guessed it. So Emperor Nero had an idea, a terrible idea, but an idea nonetheless. What if we just mixed cheaper metals into the coins? Made them look the same, but with less actual silver? And that's exactly what he did. By 68 AD, the denarius was down to 90% silver. No big deal, right? Just a small adjustment. Except here's the thing about debasement. It's addictive. The next emperor did it, and the next, and the next. By 100 AD, it was 85% silver. By 200 AD, it was barely 50%. By 270 AD, less than 5% silver. The Roman economy imploded. Inflation went ballistic. A measure of wheat that cost half a denarius in the 1st century cost 200 denarii by the 3rd century. That's a 40,000% increase. And the government's solution? Price controls. They literally made it illegal to charge more than government-approved prices. Merchants stopped selling goods. Black markets exploded. The economy ground to a halt. The Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476 AD. And while there were many factors, the destruction of their currency was absolutely at the heart of it. Rome's lesson? Once you start debasing your currency, it's almost impossible to stop. Because every leader faces the same temptation. Fix tomorrow's problem with today's printing press. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but that was ancient Rome. We're smarter now. We've learned from history. Have we? China's Ming Dynasty. They invented paper money in the 11th century. Brilliant innovation. By the 15th century, they'd printed so much that it became worthless. They literally abandoned paper money for over 500 years. Revolutionary France, 1790s. They issued a new paper currency called assignats, backed by confiscated church lands. Within 5 years, they'd printed so many that people were using them as wallpaper. Literally, as wallpaper. Weimar Germany, 1923. After World War I, Germany started printing money to pay war reparations and rebuild. Prices doubled every 3.7 days at the peak. People were paid twice a day because their wages would be worthless by evening. That wheelbarrow of cash I mentioned earlier, the wheelbarrow was worth more than the money inside it. Zimbabwe, 2008. They went from being the breadbasket of Africa to printing $100 trillion bills in less than a decade. The inflation rate hit 89.7 sextillion%. That's 89,700,000,000,000,000,000%. Venezuela, Argentina, Hungary, Yugoslavia. The list goes on and on. Here's what connects all of them. Every single one. Started the same way. We just need a little more money to solve this temporary problem. All right, so that's history. Ancient stuff. Old news. But what about today? What about the dollar, the euro, the yen? Well, let me tell you a story about 1971. For decades after World War II, the US dollar was backed by gold. Not directly for citizens, but other countries could exchange dollars for gold at $35 per ounce. This was called the Bretton Woods system. It was a leash on government spending. But then, Vietnam War, Great Society programs, spending, spending, spending. Other countries started getting nervous. France literally sent warships to collect their gold. So on August 15th, 1971, President Nixon went on TV and said, "We're temporarily suspending the convertibility of the dollar into gold." That temporary suspension is still in effect today, over 50 years later. And here's what happened next. The money supply exploded. In 1971, there were about $600 billion in existence. Today, over $21 trillion in just M2 money supply alone. A dollar in 1971 is worth about 17 cents today. You need $8 now to buy what $1 bought in 1971. But surely we're being responsible now, right? Surely we've learned our lesson? 2008, financial crisis. The Federal Reserve solution, print trillions of dollars. They called it quantitative easing. Fancy name for the same old playbook. 2020, pandemic hits. Government response, print trillions more. In just 2 years, the US created more money than in the previous 2 centuries combined. And now, inflation, the highest in 40 years. Your rent is up. Your groceries are up. Everything is up. And here's the uncomfortable truth. We're following the exact same playbook as Rome, as Weimar Germany, as every failed system before us. We're just doing it in slow motion, so it's harder to notice. We're in stage 2, heavy debasement. And if history is any guide, okay, so we've established the pattern. But why does this keep happening? Why can't governments just not destroy their own currencies? Because of 3 fundamental problems with any system based on fiat currency. That's fiat, meaning by decree. Money that's valuable only because the government says it is. Problem 1, the incentive problem. Imagine you're a politician. You want to get elected or stay elected. You can either tell voters, sorry, we can't afford that program you want, or you can print money and give them what they want now and let some future politician deal with the consequences. What are you going to choose? Every single time. Politicians choose short-term gain over long-term stability. It's not because they're evil, it's because the system rewards it. Problem 2, the debt spiral. When you can print money, you can borrow unlimited amounts, because you can always print more to pay it back. Except, that's not really paying it back, that's just devaluing the debt. The US national debt is over $36 trillion. The interest payments alone are over $1 trillion per year now. How do you pay $1 trillion in interest? You print more money, which creates more inflation, which requires higher interest rates, which makes the debt more expensive. It's a spiral. Problem 3, the trust trap. Once people lose confidence in a currency, it's almost impossible to restore it. Because now you're fighting psychology, not just economics. If everyone thinks the currency will be worth less tomorrow, they'll spend it or get rid of it today, which creates more inflation, which proves they were right to lose confidence. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And once it starts, it accelerates. Fast. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but we're different. We have the Federal Reserve. We have sophisticated monetary policy. We have economists with PhDs. And you're right, we are more sophisticated. We have better tools, better data, better understanding of economics. But here's the thing. So did everyone else, at their time. The Romans thought they were the eternal empire. They had the best military, the best infrastructure, the most advanced civilization on Earth. The British Empire thought the pound sterling would rule forever. The sun never set on the British Empire, remember? In 2021, central bankers told us inflation was transitory, just temporary, nothing to worry about. Every civilization thinks they're different. Every civilization thinks they've figured it out. Every civilization thinks it can't happen here. Until it does. The average lifespan of a fiat currency is 27 years. 27 years. The current dollar system, based on pure fiat since 1971, is already 53 years old. We're playing on borrowed time. Now, does that mean the dollar is going to collapse tomorrow? No. The US dollar is still the global reserve currency. The US has the strongest military, the most dynamic economy, the deepest capital markets. But advantages aren't immunity. They're just delays. Rome had advantages too, for a while. So what happens next? How does this end? Historically, there are really only 3 ways this plays out. Option 1, hyperinflation. The classic. The government prints so much that the currency becomes worthless. It's dramatic, it's painful, and it happens faster than you think possible. This is the Weimar, Charter, Zimbabwe scenario. Option 2, sovereign default. The government simply can't pay its debts and declares bankruptcy. This causes massive economic disruption, but allows for a reset. This is what Argentina has done repeatedly. Option 3, currency reset. The government introduces a new currency, usually at some exchange rate to the old one. Turn in your old dollars. Here are your new dollars. They frame it as an upgrade. It's happened in France, Germany, Russia, Brazil. Well, the list is long. There's also a fourth possibility that's emerging now. Central bank digital currencies. Governments creating digital versions of their currencies with complete tracking and control. China's already doing it. The US and Europe are exploring it. It doesn't solve the debasement problem, but it gives governments even more control over monetary policy. The pattern suggests we're heading towards some kind of reset. The question isn't if, the question is when, and which option we'll take. Look, I'm not here to tell you the sky is falling. I'm not here to peddle gold coins or crypto or doomsday bunkers. But I am here to show you the pattern, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every financial system in history has followed the same 4 stages. Every government has faced the same temptations. Every currency has eventually failed. Not most, not many, every single one. We're watching it happen in real time. The money supply is expanding faster than ever. Debt is growing exponentially. Inflation is eating away at purchasing power. The warning signs are all there. Does that mean you should panic? No. Does that mean you should be informed, aware, and prepared? Absolutely. The Roman citizens didn't see it coming because it happened slowly, over generations. We have the advantage of history. We can see the pattern. The question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? Because the financial system you're using today will end the same way every financial system before it has ended. The only question is whether you'll be ready when it does. If this video made you think, do me a favor, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to see this. And subscribe, because I'm diving deep into topics like this every week. Drop a comment and let me know. Do you think our current system is different? Or are we following the same path as every empire before us? Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.